Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada,
Jai Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Shri Shri Koda Nitai Mayapur Shri Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. It's actually the wrong one. This was the one for the original verse that I was going to speak on, and then I changed it to the ones. Let's just see what this is.
It's maybe the right one as well.
It's Madhya 25. It's Madhya Lila chapter 25. Oh, yes? Okay. I mean, I can try and use my phone and then just I can sort of jump backwards and forwards. So just leave it for now, Felix. And then I can see if I can sort of jump between them. I don't have many notes. So.
What verse would you like this one on?
It's going to be, just a second. Madhya Lila, chapter 25, and it's verses 269 to 279.
I'm sorry, Madhya.
No, Madhya Lila, Madhya 25. And, let's just find it here. So. Madhya 25. 269 to 279.
Is that near the end or the beginning of?
Well, it's definitely going to be closer to the end.
So 225?
269.
69.
I'll check that in a second. I'm just getting it myself. Yeah, 269. Oops. Modern technology. I've got it here.
Oh, so
I thought you were getting it for yourself.
Two verses I thought you to do.
Okay, so we'll read from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. The bookmarks of it from. Oh, I see. So this is Let There Be a Temple, chapter 8. Is it where the marker is? Like
Yes.
So it's just kind
where
of.
this blue thing. No, where the blue thing is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So this is where the paragraph starts.
So it's just here.
Yeah.
Prabhupada repeated his instructions several times. He was in a grave mood as he instructed his followers. My Guru Maharaj used to say, Prana Acha Yandra Se Hetu Prachara. One who has got life, he can preach. The dead man cannot preach. So you become with life, not like dead man. Just like all my godbrothers, they are dead men, and therefore they are envious of my activities. They have no life. If you want to make life showing the deity and then sleep, then it is a failure movement. Prabhupada could not bear to hear that such an important festival as Rath Yatra was being stopped. We shall abide by all the rules, he said, but we must have this festival. They saw last year that in the open sunshine, thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, stood in Trafalgar Square for 3 hours, and they do not go to the church, so they have seen there is something. Otherwise, how people have taken so much interest. Brahmananda Swami. Yes, just like in the San Francisco paper, they admitted this is the most popular festival. Prabhupada. Yes, 15,000 people attended my lecture silently in San Francisco. So they are seeing there is something in the movement. But sometimes some parties do not want us to go on without objection, or else they will be finished. Hare Krishna. On the day of Prabhupada's departure from Los Angeles, he addressed the assembled devotees of the temple, encouraging them to remain faithful in Krishna consciousness. And he revealed his own feelings of urgency. His constant traveling was for his disciples, so they would remain strong. And if they remained strong, following the simple programs he had given them, then their success was guaranteed. Some way or other, he said, we have introduced this program in the Western countries. And you are so intelligent, you have very soon captured it. So stick to the standard. Then your life is successful. It is not at all difficult. But don't deviate. Then you are paka. Paka means solid. Mame vie prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. If you remain solid in Krishna consciousness, then Maya cannot touch you. So that is my request. I am traveling all over the world. I am going to see how things are going in Dallas, New Vrindavan. So my touring is natural. I have started this movement. I want to see that it is going nicely. Don't deviate. That is my only request. Excuse me. Prabhupada began to cry and simply concluded, then you will remain solid. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Is it possible to have at least this light on? Okay, so which one? Oh, this is good. We need chapter 25. It's okay, I've got it here. No problem. Thank you. We've got a whole. We're going to look at the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita here pretty soon. Okay. Let's see how we go. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay, so we are reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 25, 260, and we're going to do verses 269 to 279. What's the name of this chapter? I don't have it written here. So very confusing using my phone.
How the residents of
Varanasi became
How the residents of Varanasi became Vaishnavas, is that correct? How the residents of Varanasi became Vaishnavas. So what we'll do, because it's a lot of verses, I won't go through, well, I don't even have the Bengali written down here. We won't go through the Bengali for each verse. I'll just read through the verses right the way through, and then we'll go back to the beginning and go through at least one or two of the verses and purports and try and say a little something about those. Okay. So all devotees should hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with faith and love. By the grace of the Lord, one can thus attain shelter at his lotus feet. By understanding the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can understand the truth about Krishna. By understanding Krishna, one can understand the limit of all knowledge described in various revealed scriptures. The pastimes of Lord Krishna are the essence of all nectar, and that nectar is flowing in hundreds of rivers in all directions. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are an eternal reservoir, and one is advised to let his mind swim like a swan on this transcendental lake. With all humility, I submit myself to the lotus feet of all of you devotees. Taking the dust from your feet as my bodily ornaments, now, my dear devotees, please hear one thing more from me. Devotional service to Krishna is exactly like a pleasing, jubilant forest of lotus flowers, wherein there is ample honey. I request everyone to taste this honey. If all the mental speculators bring the bees of their minds into this forest of lotus flowers and jubilantly enjoy ecstatic love of Krishna day and night, their mental speculation will be completely transcendently satisfied. The devotees who have a relationship with Krishna are like the swans and chakrabaka birds who play in that forest of blue flowers. Who play in that forest of lotus flowers. The buds of those lotus flowers are the pastimes of Krishna, and they are edibles for the swan-like devotees. Lord Sri Krishna is always engaged in his transcendental pastimes. Therefore, the devotees following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can always eat those lotus buds, for they are the pastimes of the Lord. All the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should go to that lake and, remaining always under the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, become swans and chakrabaka birds in those celestial waters. They should go on rendering service to Lord Sri Krishna and enjoy life perpetually. In this way, all miseries will be diminished. The devotees will attain great happiness, and there will be jubilant love of God. The devotees who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take the responsibility for distributing nectarian devotional service all over the world. They are like clouds pouring water on the ground that nourishes the fruit of love of Godhead in this world. The devotees eat that fruit to their heart's content, and whatever remnants they leave are eaten by the general populace. Thus they live happily. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are full of nectar, and the pastimes of Lord Krishna are like camphor. When one mixes these, they taste very sweet. By the mercy of the pure devotees, whoever tastes them can understand the depths of that sweetness. Men become strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom, and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. The readers should relish this wonderful nectar because nothing compares to it. Keeping their faith firmly fixed within their minds, they should be careful not to fall into the pit of false arguments or the whirlpools of unfortunate situations. If one falls into such positions, he is finished. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Tam Sajidam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sundhavani Nastachari Shitana Mancha Kalpatarubhyas Chakra Siddhadevaja Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All devotees should hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with faith and love. By the grace of the Lord, one can thus attain shelter at his lotus feet. By understanding the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can understand the truth about Krishna. By understanding Krishna, one can understand the limit of all knowledge described in various revealed scriptures. So Srila Prabhupada says, as Lord Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschim mam veti tattvata. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. It is very difficult to understand Krishna, but if one tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Bhakti cult, one will undoubtedly understand Krishna very easily. If somehow or other one understands Krishna, his life is successful. Again, as Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma kama chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punajanma neti mameti sojana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So this is a nice point. Actually, let's start with this principle of Shravanam, since that's the theme of this program that we're doing at the moment. So we know that there are 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Shakyavakmani Vedanam. So hearing about Krishna, chanting Krishna's glories, remembering Krishna, and then worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna, worshipping the deity of the Lord, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming the Lord's friend, serving the Lord, and offering everything, offering our whole mind, body, and soul to the Lord. And just as what would you say, pop trivia, for each one of these 9 processes of devotional service, there's a personality in the Srimad Bhagavatam who particularly exemplifies that particular process of devotional service. So hearing about Krishna is exemplified by Parikshit Maharaj. He heard the Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam, so he is the personality who particularly exemplifies chanting. Remembering Krishna is Prahlad Maharaj. No matter what Hiranyakashipu did to try and torture and attempt to kill Prahlad Maharaj, he always remembered Krishna. And by always remembering Krishna, he was protected from the torment of Hiranyakashipu. Lakshmi Devi, she worships the lotus feet of the Lord. She's always situated at the lotus feet of the Lord. Prithu Maharaj, when the 4 Kumaras came to visit him, he worshipped them and best showed the example of how to perform archanam, like worship, deity worship. Vandanam is Akrura, and Akrura entered into Vrindavan. He offered these beautiful prayers to Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada says that this is how everyone should enter Vrindavan, following the example of Akrura. And Dasyam is Hanuman, the greatest servitor of Lord Ramachandra. Sakyam, becoming the friend of the Lord, is Arjuna. Arjuna was such a great friend of Krishna. And Atmanivedanam is Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, when Vamanadev came to put his make his 3 steps, and the first 2 steps covered the entire creation. And then he said, so where should I put my last step? And Bali Maharaj said, just here. And Vamanadev put his last step on Bali Maharaj's head. And in this way, Bali Maharaj surrendered everything to the Lord. So, but we're particularly focusing on Shravanam. And Srila Prabhupada, he in a number of places, he makes this point that, you can do any one of these 9 processes of devotional service and you can attain full success in bhakti. Now, that said, there's a very special emphasis which is placed on the first 3 processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, because without hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, it's going to be questionable whether our performance of the other 6 activities are actually going to be done in the proper mood of bhakti. Externally, we can be working very, very hard to serve the Krishna consciousness movement. We can be doing so many services and we will get unlimited benefit because everything that Krishna does is unlimited. So, whenever Krishna takes one step towards us, that one step is unlimited in the blessings and the mercy that we receive from that. But still, our goal as Vaishnavas or as aspiring Vaishnavas, as followers of Srila Prabhupada, as followers of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, we have a very specific goal in mind. Lord Chaitanya came to give something very, 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 very specific. He came to give pure, spontaneous love of Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. Now that's a little confidential, but it's right there. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and although we may not be yet on a level where we're ready to go too deeply into the specific pastimes of Vrindavan, we should at least know that this is what Lord Chaitanya came to give, and that this is the ultimate goal of our practicing Krishna consciousness, is he came to give spontaneous love of Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. And our activities of bhakti are ultimately meant to be performed in that mood. So all these different activities, whether we're worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, whether we're worshipping the deity, whatever. Like, for instance, one example is, although we say that Arjuna exemplifies friendship, but Lord Chaitanya came to give something even higher than that, which is friendship in the mood of the friends of Krishna and Vrindavan. So it's something very, very specific, and it may be a long journey to get to that point. But in order to, when we're embarking on a journey, the final goal may be a long, long way away, but we at least need to know what that final goal is. Otherwise, okay, where's the map? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Do I go straight ahead? Where am I even going? Am I just wandering around aimlessly? No, we have a goal in mind, a final goal. Pure, spontaneous love for Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. And then we have the Bhakti Marg. We have the road of devotional service that we're traversing in the hope that eventually we can reach that final goal. So although we can do any one of these processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that is something which is of utmost importance if we're going to achieve that ultimate goal. Because, and who's online right now? Sorry, is anyone online watching?
Here's the 5 people. Okay,
just in case anyone was at our program last night, we're probably going to repeat some of the things that we spoke about there, so apologies if it's too repetitive. But Srila Prabhupada says repetition is the mother of remembrance, so it's good to remember these things. So, so in order to establish the proper mood of bhakti, then hearing and chanting and remembering has to be there, so that whatever we're asked to do, if we're chopping the vegetables, weeding the pathways, worshipping the deity, whatever it is that we're doing, the meditation has to be there, the mood and the meditation should be correct. At the end of the day, whatever we do, we kind of offer that final result to Krishna, and then we get benefit from that. But if, like a slightly amusing example, and one which some of you may have heard before, but many years ago we had a temple in Liverpool, and we used to do a Sunday program there, and every Sunday one of our community members, they would come and they would help clean the floor of the temple room after the prasadam. So one of our devotees, some of you know Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu, he saw that this community member was really doing a really wonderful job of cleaning the floor, and he was listening to his earphones, So Chaitanya Vallabha said, wow, you're doing a really good job. You look so absorbed in that service. Are you listening to Srila Prabhupada? What is it that you're listening to that's inspiring you so much? And he said, oh no, Prabhu, I'm listening to Public Enemy. It's like some hardcore, I don't know, rap band or something. I'm kind of a little out of touch. But, still at the end of the day, Krishna's pleased with him, and Prabhupada's pleased because he did that service. But if we do our service actually meditating on Krishna, thinking of Krishna, remembering Krishna, then it becomes a whole different service. Then it becomes bhakti. Then rather than, it's like karma yoga means that we do an activity and then we offer the results at the end to Krishna. But bhakti yoga means we're doing the service in consciousness and in meditation on Krishna. So in order to establish the proper meditation, then Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam needs to be there. Because whatever we do, two people can be doing exactly the same thing. Like in bhakti, two devotees may be sitting side by side chanting japa together, but depending on what those two individual devotees' meditation is, and what their mood is, and what their intention is, they will get two different results from chanting that. So someone may be chanting Hare Krishna and meditating on wanting to fulfill their material desires. So Krishna will fulfill their material desires. Someone may be chanting Hare Krishna and meditating on that I want to go to the heavenly planets at the time of death. Krishna will fulfill that desire. So whatever our mood and meditation is, Krishna will fulfill that desire because we're approaching him through his holy name to fulfill that desire. So if we're chanting Hare Krishna, meditating, or at least in the mood of what we learn from the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, then the proper mood will develop. Because we develop the qualities, our qualities are based on the association that we keep. So if we're associating with Srila Prabhupada, if we're associating with the great sages, if we're associating with Lord Chaitanya and all the personalities of the Srimad Bhagavatam, then that will establish the proper mood of pure devotional service, because these books, these books are just saturated with pure bhakti. You know, Lord Chaitanya described the Srimad Bhagavatam as Amala Purana, spotless Purana, completely devoid of anything other than pure devotional service. And the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the 10th canto, and the essence of the 10th canto is the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. So whatever we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the mood of the Bhagavatam is bringing us to Vrindavan. So we speak about, you know, the goal is Vrindavan, and we're on the Bhakti Marg, but the Bhagavatam is taking us there. That everything that's going on in the Bhagavatam, whether it's the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra, Varaha, Nrsingadev, Vamanadev, all the different personalities, Prahlad Maharaj, Prithu Maharaj, they're all taking us to Vrindavan. And literally speaking, in the 4th chapter, at the end of the 4th chapter of the 1st canto, Srila Prabhupada makes this really nice statement. He says, so now we are very grateful to Narada Muni, who has kindly appeared in this chapter. so Narada Muni, he's appeared, he's personally appeared in the chapter. And as we go through the Bhagavatam, different personalities, they're going to appear. And they're going to take us by the hand, and they're going to take us down the road towards Vrindavan. They'll take us part of the way. And it's like a transcendental, what's it called, like in sports, I think they have this baton, I don't know what the name of it is, where someone runs and then they pass the baton to someone else, and then they run and they pass the baton to someone else, so it's, you know, Prahlad Maharaj is taking us, and then he hands us to Prithu Maharaj. I can't remember, my kind of structure of the Bhagavatam is something which I know less about than I wish I did, but one of these personalities is passing us to the next, and they're passing us to the next, and they're passing us to the next, and finally they're going to bring us to Vrindavan. So they're taking us down the road to Vrindavan. So if we're regularly hearing and chanting and meditating on these teachings, then eventually we will arrive at the desired destination, and our chanting will take us to the desired destination. Now, because in Kali Yuga, you know, Prabhupada's saying here, it's very difficult to understand Krishna. So even the Srimad Bhagavatam, it can be very difficult to understand, especially ourselves. What is it? Oh boy. What is the verse where it describes the qualities of Kali Yuga in chapter 1? How does the verse begin? Pranayo Payusha Sabya Kalavasma Yugajana Mandasamanda Matio Mandabhagya Vipadita. So the sages of Naimisharanya, they're speaking to Sutta Goswami in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and they're saying, you know, in Kali Yuga, people live short lives, they are lazy, quarrelsome, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So for us, even though the Bhagavatam kind of, you know, the whole point of the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni, his instructions to Vyasadeva were basically get to the point. You've written all these Vedas, but now just get to the point, because people are going to read the Vedas and they're going to miss the point. So now just get to the point. What's the point that you're trying to make by giving all this Vedas and Upanishads and Puranas? What's the point? The point is Krishna. Worship Krishna, think of Krishna, remember Krishna. That's the point. So the Bhagavatam is to establish the point. But even though the Bhagavatam is very to the point, still, because our minds are so disturbed by Kali Yuga's influence, it's difficult for us. You know, it's difficult to read. It can be difficult to read. It can be difficult to concentrate. It can be difficult to remember. Like sometimes you're halfway through a chapter and it's like, who's actually talking to who right now? It's like, okay, the sages were talking to Sutta Goswami, and then he started describing Sukadev Goswami talking to Parikshit Maharaj, and then halfway through there, Vidura's talking to Maitreya, and who's even talking to who anymore? And then one of them's discussing someone talking to Narada Muni, and then Narada Muni starts telling a story about another conversation, and before you know it, I don't know who's talking to who, I don't know where I am, I don't know what's happening, I'm completely lost. Because Kali Yuga has this influence where the mind's just so disturbed and so distracted, and it's getting more, like for instance, now we have technology, which is amazing. Here's the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you, Apple, for that. But, the algorithms through all these different social media sites that we use, I don't know whether it's intentional or not, the effect is that we just become so distracted and so short. Our memory becomes so short and so distracted and so splintered that to just focus on anything becomes a real challenge. So Prabhupada's saying it's very difficult to understand Krishna, particularly in Kali Yuga. But if one tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bhakti cult. That would have been controversial back in the day, but the literal definition of cult is the culture, the culture, the culture of bhakti. One will undoubtedly understand Krishna very easily. If somehow or other one understands Krishna, his life is successful. So there's a really nice verse, and this is a really good one to learn if you can remember it, or if you're interested in learning verses. This is I think it appears actually 2 or 3 times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but this is quoted from, I've not written there. Anyway, I think it's chapter 14 of the Adi Leela, text 1, and it's a really nice verse. Katanchana smrite yasmin, dushkaram shukaram bhavet, vismrite viparditam siyat, Shri Chaitanyam namamitam. Things that are very difficult to do become easy to execute if one somehow or other simply remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one does not remember him, even easy things become very difficult. To this Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. So when we take shelter of Lord Chaitanya, everything can become easy. Everything can become easy just by remembering Lord Chaitanya. And it says simply if one somehow or other simply remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we can take that in different ways. Obviously, the most simple and most recommended process in Kali Yuga for remembering anyone is to chant their name. If we want to remember Krishna, we chant Krishna's name. If we want to remember Lord Chaitanya, we chant Lord Chaitanya's name. But also, sometimes we say, okay, just chant Hare Krishna, just chant the holy name. Okay, but then Prabhupada gave volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of books, and within those books, he makes probably hundreds of recommendations throughout his books. Read this book, read this book. Here are the books that Rupa Goswami has given. Here are the books that Sanatana Goswami has given. Here are all, Prabhupada, and in some places he explicitly says, if you're interested in this, read this book by this Acharya. So there's just libraries and libraries and libraries of books. So in one sense, yeah, just chant Hare Krishna. But to actually chant Hare Krishna with the proper mood and with the proper meditation, and in such a way that we're actually going to achieve the ultimate result which Lord Chaitanya intends for us to achieve by chanting Hare Krishna, then we have to accompany that chanting of Hare Krishna with the very, very careful and regular and quite intensive study of all these books that have been given. And particularly, we want to remember Lord Chaitanya. By remembering Lord Chaitanya, difficult things become very easy. So by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, by reading these descriptions of Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes, and remembering them, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. In order to remember Krishna, first we have to hear about Krishna. In order to remember Lord Chaitanya, first of all we have to hear about Lord Chaitanya. So regular hearing about Lord Chaitanya, regular hearing of Lord Chaitanya's names, regular hearing about Krishna, and then Krishna in Vrindavan as well. Prabhupada's given Krishna book. which means that any of us can access even the most confidential pastimes. He's written Krishna book in a way that all of us can gain access to even the highest pastimes, because it's done in such a way that it can accommodate our quite fallen mood and meditation and mentality. So we can read Krishna book, we can read Chaitanya Charitamrita, and by regularly reading these books, and by regularly discussing these books, and by regularly hearing these books, then when we're chanting and when we're going about our service, we can remember Krishna. We can remember Lord Chaitanya. It becomes bhakti. Everything becomes bhakti. Whatever you put into the mind, that's what comes out of the mind. You know, and we have to be quite intensive about that. I don't know if anyone else is in the same unfortunate situation that I'm in, where even 25 years after coming here, still songs will come into my mind from before I became a devotee. You know, I still remember all the lyrics, I still remember all the guitar solos, you know, I can still remember all the movies that I watched, and sometimes they come into the mind. Why? Because I worked really, really, really hard to put them there. You know, I really worked hard to memorize those song lyrics. I watched those movies over and over again to the point that I remembered everything about them, and here I am now suffering for my sins that, you know, I remember these things. So whatever we put into the mind, that's what comes out. So if we work really, really hard to remember and to memorize and put these pastimes into our mind, then that's what's going to start coming out when we're doing our service. This is what we're going to start remembering. We'll be weeding the garden, and we'll be remembering Lord Chaitanya. You know, we'll be chopping the vegetables and remember Krishna playing with the cowherd boys, or remembering the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, or remembering something that we heard from Srila Prabhupada. So whatever we put in, that's what's going to come out. So hearing, Shravana. You know, when we have the Christmas marathon, like in December, which let's wait and see. But anyway, when we had the Christmas marathon in December, you know, it's very often a revelation for devotees that we're doing, well, not so much myself, but those devotees who are doing book distribution year round. And I remember when I was doing this, you know, the Christmas marathon would come around and you would do this extra effort. You would put in extra hours, extra time, extra effort. And at the end of it, it's like, this is what we should be doing all the time. This isn't just something that we should just be doing once a month. This is what we should be doing all the time. Or sometimes you chant extra rounds. And it's like, wow, I'm getting so much more taste now. You know, I should be doing this more often. I should be doing this all the time. So when we have these Shravanam weeks, or World Holy Name Week, or Book Distribution Marathon, they're not just there so that once or twice a year we can do a little extra. The point of these is to hopefully bring us to this revelation. This is what I should be doing all the time. Making more time for more hearing. Because by doing more hearing, I'm going to do more chanting, I'm going to do more remembering, and my Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Shakyam, Atmani, Vedanam, they're going to become more filled up with proper meditation on bhakti. So, and I'll stop in a second in case we have any questions ready. But I thought I would just finish with another really beautiful verse. Now, this is quite a confidential truth, but it's something that it's nice at times just to hear these little nuggets of nectar just to inspire us. So we already established that, you know, Lord Chaitanya came to give pure love of Krishna in the mood of Vrindavan. And by taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya, by remembering Lord Chaitanya, by meditating on Lord Chaitanya, we can achieve that. So this is a really nice verse by Prabodhananda Saraswati. He wrote a book called the Chaitanya Chandramrita. And this is the translation of one of the verses from that book. One who is extremely fortunate may get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As much as one can devote his full attention to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, to that extent, he will be able to taste the nectarian service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. The more one engages in the service of Sri Chaitanya, the more one finds oneself in Vrindavan, tasting the nectar of the service of Sri Radha. So it seems like, you know, especially like we just had Radhastami, and very often we kind of, you get the odd warning during Radhastami that, you know, this is, you know, we have to be careful about diving too deeply into these very confidential topics of Radha and Krishna, because if we're not qualified to enter very deeply into these, then we can end up becoming offensive. So we have to be cautious. But actually, here Prabodhananda Saraswati, he's giving a lot of hope. He's saying, don't even worry too much about it. You don't really need to read too much about these things or hear too much about these very, very confidential things. Remember Lord Chaitanya, serve Lord Chaitanya, worship Lord Chaitanya, and then automatically, by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, you'll find yourself becoming more and more absorbed in this very elevated mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So by serving the mission of Lord Chaitanya, which really, you know, the most important aspect of that mission is sharing Krishna consciousness with others. If we can somehow or other share Krishna consciousness with others, and that can also be part of our meditation, even with going about our service here. Why am I making everywhere look so beautiful? Because we want people to come here and get a wonderful experience of Krishna consciousness. Why am I chopping the vegetables? Because we want people to get really, really nice prasadam and get a fantastic Krishna conscious experience. Why are we cleaning the temple? Because we want people to experience a beautiful environment. You know, so whatever we do can be very much in the consciousness of serving the mission of Lord Chaitanya by creating a really wonderful atmosphere where people can come and experience Krishna consciousness. And then the more we're in that mood and that meditation, the more Lord Chaitanya will reciprocate. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So as we're consciously surrendering to the mission of Lord Chaitanya, to that degree Lord Chaitanya will reciprocate by blessing us with mood and realization of Vrindavan. And then our chanting, you know, our chanting will take on a whole new realm of bhakti. Okay, so I've gone on a bit. So we can stop there. It's 25 past. Just if anyone has any questions. First of all, are there any? Well, actually, what we can do is we can ask anyone who's watching online that if you have any questions or comments, then you can type those in just now. And while you're doing that, or if you want to do that, we can ask the devotees here in the temple room if they have any questions or comments. So just let us know if you have any questions or any comments online. So, Brinda?
What's that verse you quoted? The last verse you quoted there?
You want to hear it again?
Just the way to find it.
Just a second. It's a really beautiful verse. It's actually, the wonderful thing about it is that in one sense it's very confidential, but in another sense it's protecting us from going too deep. It's saying, just worship Lord Chaitanya. So it's from Chaitanya Chandramrita, which is by Prabodhananda Saraswati, and it's text number 88. Now, there's quite a few different translations for this particular verse. If you type in that verse reference, you'll see different ways in which that verse has been translated. But this particular translation is one which I've heard both my own spiritual master use regularly, and also Indradyumna Maharaj, he quotes regularly this particular verse. So Chaitanya Chandramrita, text number 88, if anyone wants to look it up. Any other questions or points or comments or anything? Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you for your nice lecture. In one of those verses was mentioned like swan-like devotees. Could you please explain or say a little bit more about swan-like devotees?
Yeah, well, swan-like, like the Paramahamsas, they're swan-like devotees. And I don't know if anyone has any actual experience of this. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. But Srila Prabhupada says in his books that swans have this ability to be able to, like if you have like a lake of water and you pour milk into that water, swans have the ability to be able to drink the water and separate the milk from the water, so they can just take the milk. So a swan-like devotee is one who takes the essence of bhakti from whatever. And even another way that it could be described, although swans wouldn't do such a thing, but another way that we can understand that same analogy is Srila Prabhupada says that a devotee is someone who will take gold and jewels even from a filthy place. So wherever we go, well, not wherever we necessarily go, but wherever a Paramahamsa, wherever a swan-like devotee goes, whatever they read, whatever they see, whatever they hear, they're able to find Krishna within that. They're able to remember Krishna. They're able to somehow or other be reminded of Krishna. They see Krishna everywhere. You know, is that okay? I'm sure there are much nicer explanations, but that's what comes to my mind. Is that okay? Is there anything online? Nothing? Okay.
May saying thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Hare Krishna.
May.
Oh, May. Oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you, May. Hare Bol. It's nice that you're able to join us. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we'll stop there, and then we can hopefully try and remember Lord Chaitanya and increase our bhakti. So Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gauda Nitai, Maya Koshashi ki jai, Nitai Gaur Brahmandi. Hari Bol.
Please, Ramananda.